It is I, the Poptimist, and today we have Nordista Freeze.
What's going on, man? It's good to be here.
Dude, thank you so much for joining me. I've heard so much about you over the years, and we've never met. I've had multiple people tell me to have you on the show.
I'm happy to be here. It's
Yeah.
great to meet you, too. I just found out you played in the Weird Sisters. So
Yeah.
I think that's a lot of respect for you already, man.
Thank you.
Wow.
Thank you.
It's one of my favorites.
Yeah, no, it's cool. Gabby and Isaac are very old friends of mine. You know, I met them. So the theme song for this podcast is a song called Gina, 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 which I released as a single. And eventually I realized, oh, shit, I can just have that as a theme for the podcast. But we recorded it at Blackbird. Like, it was one of those Blackbird deals where it was like one of the students. I knew one of the students who was going there. Ron Bates is a super talented engineer. And he was like, do you want to do a song? And I was like, yeah. So I hired everyone out because I don't really sing per se. I sing enough to write, but I much would rather be like a fucking producer and play bass and write and do shit like that.
For sure.
But yeah, that was like really my first experience with the Weird Sisters, and how I got to know them was through that session of playing at Blackbird. But yeah, it was a super good time to always play with them, and it was fun to be in their band. But we are not here to talk about me. We're here to talk about you. What can you tell me about Space Prom? Because I know it's been going on for a little while now.
Yeah, I started in 2018, and it has become a behemoth, man. I mean, it's like back then I was just doing all sorts of DIY stuff across town, and I wanted to throw a prom, kind of cover different time periods of dance music. So I rented out Lucky Bamboo, a Chinese restaurant kind of close to here, actually, over on the west side. And they've got, just a hall in the back. It was like a wooden area with a disco ball and a wooden stage. And I asked 8 of my friends' bands, I believe, to all just play different music from different eras, like 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. And
Interesting.
Yeah, my parents came out. I have a awesome picture of me with them. I'm dressed in this elaborate outfit, and at the time I was just playing a lot of like house shows, and playing the End and the East Room and the Cobra and all that. And I was expecting maybe my goal is for 100 people to come out. That would have been like a big success, and pretty full too. I mean, it's not a big space, and we had over 500 people come out.
Wow.
And I was shocked, and then we got the attention of the venues in town, and I started being able to take Space Prom to different venues that I kind of dream venues. Like we went to Mercy Lounge in the Cannery Hall, the 500 cap upstairs club, and sold that out with a 2-band bill, just me and a band called Arlie, just doing 80s. And henceforth, it's just my band now. I have a 10-piece band. We cover music of the disco era, so mid 70s to 80s, and it's fun, man. We wear wild costumes, and we bring up a ton of special guests to come sing with us. And now after Mercy Lounge, we went to the Basement East. We sold that out. We went to Cannery Hall, did Cannery Ballroom.
Yep.
Then we went to where we do it now, which is the Brooklyn Bowl.
Where did your DIY ethics come from?
That's a good question. I sometimes wonder that myself, because it's deeply instilled in me, and it might just be, I don't come from a musical family per se, or at least a musically professional family. My dad, sings a lot and has led singing in different forms, but never like, he's not like in the industry. I did grow up singing a lot. I grew up in choir, but when I started in high school, or I guess middle school, started making music, it was just the perfect time. I knew I had Facebook pages and Bandcamp, and I could just do it independently, and I wanted to get booked, and I didn't know how to, so I'd play at, coffee shops and
Wherever would take you.
Literally wherever would take me, just events like trunk or treat, whatever, like thing, something in some gymnasium. And at a band in high school, we played about 200 shows across my junior and senior year, and that really lit the spark for me. And when I got to college, or college aged, I just started playing around town like crazy, and then kind of opened it up. You know, if you think about it in like a radius wise, you know, like I went to Chattanooga and Knoxville, Bowling Green, Jackson, Tennessee, then Memphis, and in the Carolinas, until eventually I was doing the Southeast and then the U.S. And then last year got to do my first UK tour, Europe tour, festival in South Africa. And
was that your first time being able to travel abroad like that?
Yeah, to do music for sure. I mean, I'd barely done any of it to begin with, but that was my first time taking my music anywhere outside of the U.S. or Canada.
What was the experience like playing for places that you don't know anybody at? Yeah,
it was extremely fun, man. Like, I felt great over there. I felt well received, and I love playing to people who don't know me. I mean, I love the opener slot. Put me up first for a crowd that doesn't know me, and I will win them over. So that's fun for me.
So in addition to kind of these DIY ethics, it sounds like you have a really strong work ethic. Because there's a lot of people, I think, in Nashville that either rely on their talent or they have the industry connections.
Yeah.
Or name any of those factors. And I'm not talking shit.
Right.
But I feel like the work ethic to me always beats everything. And you're very talented. You're a talented guy. Your music's great. But did you grow up kind of in like a working class family that put a lot of emphasis on earning your way, or like what was it?
That's interesting. I never quite thought about it like that, but my dad and my mom both did work a lot of like jobs. Like my dad's a teacher, and he would also do his hands were in a lot of different places in terms of like running a night where like a parents' night out over here, or like, you know, doing this or that, and
being busy.
Active. Yeah, like teaching courses over here for this or that. And so maybe there's a little bit of that entrepreneurial, you know, mindset that I do get from them. I definitely do think hard work and being maybe success oriented is something that is a part of my DNA or nature or nurture. I don't know, but somewhere along the way. But yeah.
Well, it's interesting too, because I don't know necessarily. You can't force that drive into someone. You either have it or you don't.
Right.
And I'm sure, I mean, you've lived in Nashville kind of your whole life, so there's all sorts of musicians that you've met. And there are people who are super talented, way more talented probably than I could ever even wish to be.
Right.
But they're lazy as shit, dude.
Right.
But they can show up and they can shred on something, and it's just like, oh, yeah, they got it. There's no problem. But it's like, damn. Like, I feel like a big part, and maybe you can relate to this. This is really, I guess, where my self-loathing comes in. I never feel secure in what I'm doing. I always feel like I can do it better. You know, I can do it bigger the next time.
Right.
Because it's like I don't know. I think talent is overrated to a certain degree. For sure, you got to have that little spark.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, give me someone who can go nonstop and like work around the clock over anything.
Right.
Because it's like, and also be coachable. Like that's another thing that I really feel like a lot of musicians, straight up, I guess I am talking shit, almost famous ruined musicians, like our generation of musicians.
Interesting.
That movie, dude, and it's a great movie. I like it, but it ruined a lot of fucking people because the amount that you've done. Yes, there is the performance and it's fun, but once you keep doing and you start stacking up like a resume for yourself, maybe you're not like this, but I feel a lot less romantic, and that fantasy quality kind of falls away. When you're on stage, it's still there. When you're getting to actually do the thing, but everything around it, like you got to book. Yeah. You got to book shows.
Yeah, right.
You got to sell merch. You got to record. You have to keep a band together.
Yeah. No joke.
That's an experience in itself.
Right.
It's trying to put the right people into the right job and manage all of these personality types.
Right.
So how do you do that, manage wearing all of these different hats?
Yeah, that's a great question. I've had over 70 different people in my band since 2016, so there can sometimes feel like a revolving door. I try to keep, now when we play locally, we've started doing these like Freeze family jams, basically, on where if I get asked to play like Tomato Arts Fest or Musicians Corner or like Live on the Green, one of those free outdoor festivals, I'll invite anyone who's played with me over the years to come play. And it's been really fun just getting to like collaborate with people I haven't shared the stage with in a little while. But yeah, I mean, there are a lot of different hats, and I genuinely, like hustling and working really hard and being maybe business oriented in certain ways, but also at the same time making art is a really interesting like convergence, because ultimately if I was just like some business grind set guy, I would be, selling watches or like figuring out crypto or whatever like I'm talking about. So it's like, obviously it's not actually all about, I don't have, I just, I love making art, and I think all the pieces of being an artist are really appealing to me, like, because I love performance and I love writing songs, and I also love, like with Space Prom, we're going to 4 different cities. We have this 30-song set list, so I'm collaborating with, like, the singers are different for each localized place, so I'm working with like probably 60, 70 different
Is it just
artists.
Musicians that you've met from touring over the years?
Kind of, yeah. We're focused on like markets that I have played a lot. So like Athens, Georgia, and Savannah, Georgia. Those are 2 places that I know
Those
really
are big
well.
college towns too, right?
Yeah, I suppose they are. Yeah, I mean, Athens has UGA, big SEC town. But Athens, for some reason, has a huge art scene, and that's for reasons I'm sure someone knows, but I'm not quite sure about. Ever since like Elephant Six Collective, like bands like the Apples in Stereo and Montreal, and so there are bands that I've liked from Athens from when I started getting into music. So, but yeah, we're working, and I'm working specifically with those towns to find like 20 different special guests to sing these 80s covers. So, and I love that. I love communicating with hundreds of people at a time. It's very fun for me.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Damn. Yeah, I would say that's another important thing. Like, before we got started today, we were talking a little bit about that, how important communication is.
Right.
And especially learning to communicate with different personality types.
Yeah.
I'm sure as busy as you are and the amount of people that you've worked with now, like, as you were going through, was there really a trial by, it sounds like it was a trial by fire kind of for you.
Yeah, definitely.
Were your baby, did you go through a time where you just felt like you were getting your ass handed to you repeatedly and like you didn't know what was going on or like how to?
Yes, I'm being out on tour. I mean, that really teaches you some lessons the hard way. And I mean, it's a brutal lifestyle being out there, and it's like romanticized, and there are romantic aspects to it. Like you said, like when you're up on stage and you're playing to a good crowd, and there's times when you feel like a king. And it's actually the polarization of it is what's so interesting, because within one day you go from like riches to squalor, like back and forth. You know what I mean? Like you're getting a tour of some place, or like someone's putting you up in this like really nice mansion when I'm like, oh, you guys can stay here, and you're like, man, like this feels like luxurious.
You get your own bed,
and then like literally the next night you're like asleep in like a hoarder's house in like a in a basement that smells weird, and you're like, man, I am like really roughing it out here. This is hard.
Well, you've gotten to see a lot of different aspects of American life then.
Yeah,
absolutely. The country's a big place.
Yes.
And there is a thread, I would say, running through all of America, but it's such a huge place. Like, the culture is entirely different from Florida to, like, I grew up in Maine. So I grew up in Maine and Florida. 2 very different fucking places.
Mm-hmm.
I've lived in North Carolina. I've lived in Colorado. I've lived in Washington State. And, like, my family, we did a couple cross-country road trips when I was a kid. So I've gotten to see the entire landscape of the U.S. and how similar yet how different people are through that. Is there anything that you feel like you've learned or was surprising to you once you started becoming a touring musician?
There's a lot of unity that I wasn't, it's so easy for people to write off or describe different regions. And yeah, I feel like when you actually go everywhere and you meet artistic and like-minded people all across the country, in some ways there's so much commonality. And then, yeah, at the same time, it is kind of like, now that I've toured in the UK and Europe last year and realizing, I remember on my UK tour, I did the math and I was like, we're basically 8 hours away from where we started this tour. I was like, we do more than that on an off day going through Texas, going from like Austin to El Paso to, Phoenix.
Totally.
For like on this crazy long tour. So it's like, then you start thinking like, wow, we really are like the United States. It's like, these are different states. And in some ways we have so much commonality, but in other ways it's like this region is like a different country, like how it would be in in Europe. It is pretty amazing that it all exists. And I definitely at a young age, I've always had a lot of, I just think the whole country is exciting. I love big cities. I love small towns. And that's why my touring style has been a little bit more unique. Like I do kind of choose to play a lot of smaller markets because I want to be in places that people don't typically go to. I want to tap into that. And I do, like, I love New York. I love Chicago, all that too. But yeah, it's, I love them both. And I find it very interesting. And, like, I like Woody Guthrie a lot, and I like Jack Kerouac, and I like a lot of my heroes are people who just were willing to roam around the USA.
That's the kind of romanticism that I like about the U.S.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I remember reading On the Road when I was in high school, and eventually when I moved out to Colorado when I was 20 years old, the thing that stuck out to me, there was a line in On the Road where Jack Kerouac, he was from Massachusetts, I believe, and he talked about the east of his youth and the west of his future, and that like Denver or Boulder was like a gateway to that.
Right.
And it's like you go there and you see somewhere like Colorado, and it feels like you're on the edge of society.
Yeah, totally.
It's just the mountains, and you're there on the Front Range, that whole area in Colorado, which is basically like Denver, Boulder, Fort Collins, Loveland, and all these other little cities. It was basically, they're all within like 45 minutes or an hour of each other.
Yes.
Then you go up into the mountains and you've entered Middle Earth. Like that's what it feels like.
Right. Yeah. Totally.
And I always really like that vibe. I would say Colorado is probably my favorite place in the U.S. to go. I've never played there. Even though I lived there, I was just so introverted at that age that I didn't really try and do music. I just got way too high, you know?
Right. Denver has always been a really fun place for us to play, like good crowds in Denver. And then last year we went and played some places like Buena Vista or like Steamboat Springs, like some like smaller towns.
Yeah.
More like where it's like there's one venue in this town and people come here to ski or to be in the mountains. And that is super fun too because everyone comes out. It's more like being on Broadway where everyone's like, oh, I'm in town, I'm going there, except it's you playing indie rock. And they're just like, yeah, whatever. We came here to like get a burger and hear some music. So people are really in a great mood, and yeah, it's a lot of fun. I recommend, if you get the chance, doing a tour out there.
Yeah.
Super fun.
Well, it's like going back to the smaller market thing. When you're in a big city, it's pick your poison. You can go anywhere, see anything. For the most part. There's places that are kind of fucking boring. But
Sure.
But like when you show up somewhere, it's like you are the rock star. Like the image that they have in their mind, they have Almost Famous in their mind.
Right.
You know?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Right. Yeah, and they, I always think like, I just need X amount of money to get to the next city, or I ideally would have X amount of people show up to my show, and it's like people act like you can only have that in all these major markets, but it's like I mean, man, I could do a whole master class on how much success I've had in places that are not where people thought that where people say to go. Like Clemson, South Carolina has been great to me, or like, Rock Hill, South Carolina, like Winthrop University. It's like I play these like small Carolina towns and like smallish and, have so much fun and like do play in spaces that feel a little bit less like just a standard 250 club. Like in Rock Hill, we play in like a courtroom that they have that like, I believe the city is like donated somehow to like allow shows to happen. And it's just sick. I'm like playing inside a courtroom, like running around, got a mosh pit going. It's like, I just love that stuff, man. I love being in the weird parts of America, and it's a blast. And man, if I could do it every night, I would, man. I love touring so much. I've just played like over 800 shows. I passed that threshold a little bit last year. I think I'm at like 825, and I want to be like Dylan. I just want to keep playing, or Willie Nelson, one of those guys. Like, I'd love to just be touring until I die.
Respects.
Yeah, it's my favorite thing.
Have you seen the Bob Dylan movie, Complete Unknown?
Yes.
I haven't seen it yet. What did you think?
I thought it was beautiful. It was cool getting to see something that you've heard a lot about, and kind of, you brush over so many details. It's cool to see, even if maybe they are romanticized or maybe aren't even 100% accurate. It's just cool to think about somebody in the lights that you don't expect. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it was just cool to think like, oh, what would it be like if Bob Dylan and his band woke up in a hotel room, And we have a little bit of that through the like Pinbaker's documentary, like Don't Look Back, and like the stuff Scorsese's done.
Yeah,
like there are some like real, documentary style, but it's cool. And yeah, like it. My sister likes Timothée Chalamet, so she's one who she paid for my ticket, asked me to go. I said,
nice.
All right, let's do it.
Yeah, I've just seen clips from it, and it seems like Timothée Chalamet did a pretty good job. And I've listened to some of the music that was recorded for it, and I'm like, oh shit, he actually sounds like Bob Dylan.
He, from what I understand, takes it very seriously. And my sister met him when he went to the Belcourt, and she said he like showed up blasting Bob Dylan. And
well, why was he at the Belcourt? What was he doing there?
They were doing some sort of early screening there, and he came and spoke.
Oh shit! Wow, that's really cool.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think that's cool, and I love Dylan. I'm doing some Dylan at Space Prom. I love 80s Dylan, and I love 70s Dylan, and yeah, I think he's awesome. I think it was cool seeing Johnny Cash then too. They kind of made Johnny Cash out to be more of like a alcoholic, like rebel.
Yeah,
which I think is interesting because his like by the time we were like college, high school aged, you had like Rubens, like American, whatever you call them, recordings. Whatever.
Oh yeah.
We kind of just see like old man Cash, who's like a man of faith and a little bit more.
Yeah, the Hurt era of Johnny Cash.
Yeah, exactly, which is beautiful, but it's just cool to get and see like a little perspective on maybe who he was at a younger age.
Yeah, well, I guess originally the director was thinking about bringing back Joaquin Phoenix for it, but he was too old at that point. Mm-hmm, I mean, Joaquin Phoenix is probably in his mid-40s now, and he's a great fucking actor. He was great as Johnny Cash,
right?
And the Walk the Line movie, but yeah, it's always kind of funny to see in those moments like Nashville portrayed in film.
Yeah, totally.
In the kind of the historical context, because it's easy to just be here day to day and drive around, but and to not necessarily remember that, we're standing on the shoulders of giants in a lot of ways. And
dude, totally.
What they built Nashville to be. And it's like, even when you think of someone like Johnny Cash or Waylon Jennings, Dolly Parton, like at least with Waylon and Willie and Johnny and Chris Christopherson, it's so funny how Nashville now, they're like, oh yeah, they're the best. They're amazing. They're incredible. Mm-hmm. But back then, they were not liked by the industry.
Totally.
And
totally.
So I just think it's funny to be driving around and to see a mural of one of them in town.
Yes.
Because they would have been disgusted with a lot of what Nashville. They were disgusted with what Nashville was back then, and they would definitely be disgusted with a lot of the industry today.
Totally. It's interesting to think about. I was reading recently about like Texas and outlaw country versus Nashville country, and even like back in the day, even like with like Glenn Campbell versus like these guys like Willie and these outlaw guys who were making music in Texas because they were saying, like Waylon saying, we're going to use our band. Like, we don't want session players. We want our band to record our music.
Yep.
And I think recently I was out in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and I played a show to like a pretty small crowd at like this old gas station that they had turned into a like kind of pool hall. And
that's cool.
That guy, Zach Bryan, came to my show because he was just playing pool with his boys.
Oh, shit.
And this was like right before he had really blown up. And I met him and started following his music and, kind of understanding more of his like ethos or what he stands for. And, versus, a lot of my friends and people I know from high school are involved in like the Morgan Wallen camp. Just from being Nashville guys, like I saw a lot of people from my high school. They like write for those people, or they're on that touring party, or like drum for his opener or whatever. And it's interesting because that same dynamic, it continues to play out where, someone like Zach Bryan has a lot of, it's like him and his boys. He thinks about it like we're on the road.
Totally.
Me and my family. And, I know Morgan Wallen, from what I understand, some of his players maybe have been with him for a while, but he is as Nashville as it gets. And it's always been that way. It's like co-writers and producers and, the package. It's just crazy because I didn't understand any of that growing up. But now I can definitely see that, like Austin and Texas country being so different than what we have here. And,
totally.
And I mean, like when I was first starting to try to get into music, in high school, and I'm like, I just wanted to play places. And you look it up, it's like, oh, there's like all these like writers rounds and open mic nights, and then quickly realizing this is totally different than what I thought being a musician was, because I like indie music and I like making my songs, and I was listening to like Animal Collective, and then it's like. I was like, oh, can I play this thing? And then I was like, why is everyone else like sound so different than me?
Yeah.
And I just didn't.
You mean generic? No, you don't have to say it. I will.
Play it. Yeah. Well, it's like songs that all have this like hook that's like meant to break your heart. Yeah. It was like all these. It was like it's so. I mean, I guess it wouldn't even be hurtful to say. It's just formulaic. It is made in a formula. It's like a mathematical equation, and I was so shocked by that, and I got kind of like. I tried doing some of these writer rounds, and they were quickly just like, we don't want you. Like, we don't want you to play here anymore. Like, I was literally told by Belcourt Taps or whatever, like across from, I don't think it's still here, maybe it is, but they just called me. They're like, we found someone else. Like, we're good, because they saw me play once, and I was kind of heartbroken. I was like in high school, and I was like, what? Why don't they want me?
Yeah.
But then now, obviously, looking back, it's like, oh, because I was playing like experimental music.
Yeah,
they have
totally.
No room for that there.
Yeah, well, it's like a lot of those writers rounds, like you were talking about, are very formulaic, even in how they're set up, and it's basically there's a couple different genres of kind of musician. It's not necessarily musical genres. I personally think it all sounds pretty homogenized,
right?
But
sure.
It's like the ladies want to be like Taylor Swift, and the dudes want to be like John Mayer. That's what I have found, and I like John Mayer, and I even to a certain degree like Taylor Swift.
Right.
She'll put a hit on me if I publicly say I don't like her.
You get it.
But I never saw myself kind of fitting into that either.
Right.
Yeah, especially being a bass player, because it was like for a little while I was like, it was like I write my own songs and do my own thing, but I was always wanting to be a musician, and like that's what I romanticize. Like the people that I grew up romanticizing were producers and session musicians.
Right.
Like bass players like Carol Kay, big inspiration of mine. Chuck Rainey, he played with Steely Dan, big inspiration of mine. Fucking Motown, of course, James Jamerson. Donald Duck Dunn from Stax Records.
That's cool.
And then a slew of other producers. When you really look at Motown and what Berry Gordy did, because that was an independently owned label, and not only that, it was black owned in an era where that was not a thing.
Right.
Right. So it's kind of incredible to look at it from that perspective too.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just so like for me, I've always been really into that, and it's like when you're a side musician, a side man, hired gun, you're at the mercy of whatever gig you can get at first.
Right.
You know? And everybody that I've played with in Nashville, I've played with all sorts of people. And I've done pickup gigs and all sorts of shit where it's like I hit up someone on Gig Salad. They were looking for a bass player. They were just going to be here for the night. And done shit like that too.
Cool.
But I wanted to experience like every aspect of what I could do from playing on a session or playing with an artist and kind of being their backing musician, because I've never wanted to be the artist per se. I've always really just wanted to be a musician or a producer.
Right.
And then by default, I eventually, once I kind of took like a long break from really playing out, I would still jam, like improvise jam, because that's honestly my favorite thing to do is to not play like an actual song and just jam on something for a while.
Yeah.
But I got to a point where I'm like, okay, I can start to pay players now. I'm like at a decent point in life where I can generate income to be able to do this.
Right.
And once I did that, I'm like, oh shit, this takes away all of the pressure and stress from music. I can just play what I want to play.
Yeah, right.
I'm not fighting tooth and nail for gigs, and it's like I've done a little bit of playing on Broadway as well, and it's all very interesting seeing every aspect of that. But it got to the point to where I was like, I'm gonna play the music that no one's ever gonna hire me to play because I'm the one who wants to do this.
Right.
So it's like, yeah, I'm gonna do surf and soul, and we're gonna do 15-minute vamps off of a couple of chord changes and just see where it goes.
Right.
And once you kind of get to the
cool.
point to where you can be creatively wherever you want to be, it took away all of that pressure and all of that stress for me.
Yeah.
Like I've always felt like in Nashville, it's like a shark, but you know those fish that live on the bottom of the shark, like feeding off of it?
Yeah.
That's how I feel. You know, I can soak up the resources that are here and utilize the fact that there's a ton of musicians here, but I don't really have to be a part of the industry. I can just do my own thing.
That's cool, man. That's cool, and that sounds very liberating too. Get to actually make some art you want to make, and that's kind of the whole point of it all, anyway.
As much as I do say that, I always go back to Sturgill Simpson, one of his lyrics, which is living the dream makes a man want to scream, light a match and burn it all down.
Interesting.
So it's like I always feel two ways
line.
about everything.
Yeah.
You know, like it's not so clear cut. It's not so black and white. Depends on what day you talk to me and if I got rejected that day or not.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or how many times I got rejected that day.
Yeah, there really is like it is so complicated. There's so much push and pull, and there are days that you feel really like it all makes sense, and days when you feel like you just want to. Like Nashville is just
fucking
drive you crazy.
I'm leaving.
Man. Yeah,
I'm never coming back. Yeah,
I feel that way. I mean, I you have so many friends who leave and go to join the coastal elites of LA and New York. You're like, man, should I just do that? Sometimes you feel that, especially when they turn your neighborhood coffee shop into Luke Bryan's clothing store 2 weeks ago. It can.
Oh shit! Is that legitimately something that happened?
Yeah, the Portland Brew next to my house is like Luke Bryan clothing store now.
That doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, it is crazy. And then they closed the pizza shop too. It's just like
what was a pizza shop?
Mafiosa's. It had been there for forever.
Okay.
It's like one of the oldest spots on the street, which isn't even.
That was in 12 South, right?
Mm-hmm. That's my neighborhood.
Nice.
Yeah. So,
So you've lived here your whole life. Like, what is your opinion of how you've seen it change? Like, I imagine it's somewhat hard to swallow when it's someone like Luke Bryan, coming in and putting up a clothing store.
It's so tricky. I don't know. I mean, in some ways, I feel like there's so much history. I follow that. There's one really good account, Nashville history account on Instagram that I follow, and they post.
I follow that account as well.
Stuff. Yeah. I can't remember the exact name, but they. It's just amazing. Even sometimes I'll post stuff from my street, and I'm just like, wow, that's so cool. And that wasn't, it'll be like, oh, there's this bakery this year. It's not that long ago. And so, like I was saying to you, although I'm born and raised here, so much of it's insignificant until you're maybe 16 or whatever. It's like, there are places that matter to me, but maybe they're more like suburban or, a lot of the history of the venues and stuff. I'm still too young to understand. And, but now I do feel like in 2025, like things are changing like crazy, and they're happening almost sneakier than I ever thought. Like on my street, there's these two like behemoths, like massive complexes that they're kind of just building. I don't know what I mean by this, but it feels like they're like doing it sneakily. You know what I mean? Like it's almost like no one knows what they're building, and they're just kind of about to one day they're like, bam, we built a megaplex.
Well, they go up quick too.
Right, they go up quick, and then it's like. All the at best it'll be all the like micro chains. It'll be like, oh, we have like another Frothy Monkey and another, whatever. The same. It's like all the chains, like, oh, and a Hattie B's. You're like, okay, cool. Like I guess this is like
Nashville Inc.
Yeah, exactly. It's
Yeah.
like, this is local, I suppose, and I guess ultimately better, but I don't know. Either way, it doesn't really have much creative, attitude, which I would prefer. But I'm generally optimistic, and I believe a lot in community, and I think there's a lot of great people here, and there's a lot of cool people doing cool stuff, and I don't know. We press on. So it's hard for me to make like a conclusive thought either way. I'm like, I see stuff and I get disappointed, and man, I mean, yeah, just everything sacred dies here in Nashville. Nothing can stand the test. And if it does stay, they like renovate it and make it look different.
Well, it becomes a part of Nashville Inc.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, oh, this restaurant's still here, but we have a different kitchen manager who serves a different type of food, and we rebuilt the restaurant in a different location.
Yeah,
that was on a different street because the street was too expensive, and so I don't know, man. I don't know, but I like I said, I try not to be too negative about it. I just try to do the cool things I can and work on my Space Prom, work on Freeze Fest, work on my tours, work on cool events and DJ and have fun and create experiences that make people's lives better,
Talk to me about the new album.
Well, I'm trying to put out, my goal is to put out 5 records this year.
Damn.
So I got 1 down. Already have it vinyl in my house. Got 1,000 copies.
On the banks
of Disappearing. That's right. I recorded it up in Pittsburgh. Honestly, like the best quote-unquote record deal I could have asked for. Like my friend Jason, a guy I met, he came to a couple of my shows, one in D.C., one in Pittsburgh, and then he just messaged me and was like, you should come back to Pittsburgh and make a record. Like, well, he has a YouTube channel, Tastes Like Music, and they basically did like a 1-record deal with me where they were just like, if you come here, we will pay for your studio time. We'll get you an Airbnb.
Damn.
We'll pay for gas. We'll pay the band, whatever you need. Like, we'll take care of you. And all we ask in exchange is that, we can sell some of the records and try to recoup. And like, they own some of the physical records. That's all that's in it for them. And if they recoup, then they're just going to do it for another band. And extremely generous. It's like, honestly, a dream come true. And I had like 300 demos, and Jason and I worked together. Like, he listened to all of them. He kind of picked some that he liked. I picked some that I liked, and we worked together. And very generously, like, he never pushed me, but like, he helped me kind of take what was just like a monstrosity of music that I had and put it together and create a cool story. And I'm really excited about it. It's like a 15-track album about just like about love. Like, and it sounds oversimplistic, but it is literally about, like, in chronological order. Once you listen to the album, it's like all about a relationship, like finding someone, a crush, falling in love, and then the B side is like the fallout, and then like recovering.
Well, the first song on the record is "Close Friends," right?
Mm-hmm.
Was that just you on like a phone memo?
Basically, yeah.
Yeah. It was cool, man. It was a cool way to start off a record.
Thank you.
It felt very intimate.
Yeah. Well, this record is intimate. I mean, I'm known for making more of rock music, and this is more of like sweeter songs. I wrote the most, if not the whole record, on piano, and so that's different for me. And it was after a relationship I'd been in, and just having more time to process it all, but enough time now to where it's not like nothing's out of spite. It's all out of just like processing. Oh, here's all these emotions I felt, and piecing them all together to kind of just tell a story and about love and loss, and then also just about friendship, like that opening song. And there's other points in the record that point towards like friendships and how important they are, and how even if you get lost along the way and you deal with heartbreak or devastation, or you don't even reach out to your friends as much as you should, like the true ones will be there.
Yeah,
it's just cool.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, it's like any of my true friends, the people that I love the most, I could go 6 months, a year without talking to them, and you see them and you just pick up right where you left off.
Absolutely. Totally. I feel very lucky to have a lot of friends like that growing up here, and having so many friends stay in town and be interested in music and creative endeavors, or just stay in town and do other stuff. And we all keep in touch. Like, it's cool. I have a lot of old friends, and I love that. That's one thing that keeps me here, is that I feel very grounded with my family and friends that help keep me sane and if I'm gone so much on the road. And that can be, at times can be so fruitful, and other times can be so isolating. That coming back home to having people that have known you through different seasons is really
They don't
helpful.
see you as a rock star.
Not at all. Not at all.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, just friends.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's funny to me to like think about that, because it's like no one in my family is really musical, or they're creative in different ways, but I think just being like, once you find your tribe, and especially like having old friends, like I have my best friend in the world. His name's Zach Lehman. He's a writer, like writes novels.
Whoa, nice. Man. That's sweet.
But I met him when I was like 15, 16. We were in study hall together.
Wow.
And we just dreamed of getting out of Maine and being creative and doing our own thing. And I still talk to Zach a couple times a week. Like I'll call him. That's and we'll just bullshit about whatever's going on.
Yeah.
Whether it's news, whether it's like a movie trailer that we saw that we're excited about.
Yeah.
And it's just great to be able to have that kind of dialogue. Like there's no, like when you've known someone for a long time, and I think this is both in bad and good ways, or can be in both bad and good ways. You almost have your own form of like dialogue with them.
Yeah, totally.
You speak your own language.
Yeah.
Because it was like we were talking about Weird Sisters earlier. Like Isaac and I feel like we almost have this language that we speak. I don't know how to describe it.
Yeah, totally.
Would it make sense what I'm saying?
It does.
But
for sure.
I feel like we just like having a friend like that, feeling understood on like a molecular level.
Yeah.
I feel like I have a lot of friends that I have that kind of friendship with.
That's cool.
That's the thing I'm proudest of in my adult life.
Yeah. That stuff is so important, man. It's
Yeah.
so cool, and it's special just getting to have people like that in your life. And I think that's something that maybe this record really was something I was trying to communicate with a little bit about, is like, as I've gotten just a few years older and realizing, just how important those people are, and, life is hopefully long, and it's cool to know that those people will be by your side at the beginning. I mean, that opening track is me singing to my friends. It's like, when you do find that person, if you do find that person, and, whether it's a, short-term or long-term relationship, like, it's okay. Like, even if you get lost along the way, if you forget to call me for 6 months because you're
going through shit.
You're going through some sort of breakup, or you're madly in love with this person, it's like, no worries. Like, we've all been there, and like, or, we've all been in certain things, and we understand how life works. We have, sometimes something takes you somewhere else, and it's like, I'm still your friend.
Well,
and I
life
always
happens.
want that. Yeah, absolutely. And I just want my friends to know that, like, it's cool. I never am upset if somebody ghosts me for a month or whatever. It's like, dude, no worries.
Are you someone who, like, you feel like you could handle rejection pretty well?
That's a good question. Like, romantically or just in general? Like
in general. Too? Yeah.
Probably better at it now. I mean, I am sensitive. That's the funny thing. I mean, I'm being in the artist type. I do think I am deeply sensitive, but at the same time, I think as I've gotten older and had like genuinely, I don't know how to say it. I feel like I was gonna say genuinely traumatic things happen, like where you're like, oh, like I'm scared for my life, or like I've been in a, been completely heartbroken, or had to hitchhike from one town to the other because my van died. Sometimes I'm just like, well, this isn't as bad as any of that. Like, it doesn't bother me. You know what I mean?
You're able to draw from experience now.
Yeah, totally. And just see how much that stuff doesn't really bother me as much anymore, Just because I feel like I'm like, well, as long as I'm, like, safe. I don't know. I've just been put in, like, from touring so much, I've been put in, like, genuinely, like, really bad situations, like, self-inflicted to some extent. But, like, you're risking it all out there, and you have no plan B, and it's like, I don't have any money in my bank account. I don't have any like way to bounce back. It's like, if you get a flat tire, it's like, all of a sudden you're just like, well, what do I do? I have a flat tire. I have to be here.
We don't have a donut.
Right. Totally. And you start zooming out. You're like, well, first off, can I still make the show tonight? And then if that, and then zoom out more, it's like, can I finish the tour? It's like, well, I guess I'm alive, I can probably find a way to get us home. Like I had to fly out a few months ago to Kansas to go get a van because I've had a van that had serious problems, and we had to like there was nowhere to rent a car, and we eventually found this place, and all we could rent were like Mustangs. And I had to like send my band back in this like bougie fleet of Mustangs or whatever. And it was funny, but then it was like
you had to pay for that. It was
extremely expensive. Yeah. And then the band got fixed, and I was like, well, I guess I got to fly out there. So I just flew one day, like literally just woke up in Nashville, flew to Kansas, drove all the way home, and that was my day. I was like, not a bad day.
How long of a drive was that?
I think it was 11 hours.
Did you do it solo?
I did it solo. I would much prefer solo. Even like a close friend, if they're like, I'll come with you, I'm like, no, really, I'm good. Like, I'll call you for an hour, but then I want to like think or like listen to music or we're talking about podcasts, it's like, yeah, pontificate, listen to a podcast, like eat some ice cream. I don't know. I just want my own flow. Like, let me do my thing,
Well, I feel like on those long drives, you can really get to the bottom of a lot.
Dude, absolutely.
In your life. And you like, maybe it's being out of your normal environment. Maybe because you have a heightened sense of awareness or alertness of whatever's going on around you. It's like there have been plenty of times where I've been on long drives, and I think back to like maybe an argument that I had with like a woman that I've dated or like a relationship situation or whatever. And you have these nirvana moments where you're like, oh shit, I was wrong.
Yeah.
I was in the wrong 100%.
Right.
That other person was just responding to whatever chaos I was causing at that time.
Totally. Yeah, it's amazing how much you can accomplish, even just like a 2-hour drive.
Yeah.
It's like so often in our lives we go from A to B so much quicker than that. And when you actually have to be put in a situation where you spend, like, I really believe in driving. I think it's like meditative, and I think that is part of touring that is actually, it's one of the hidden, like, there's so many parts about touring that I don't think people understand. Like, this is actually another part of it that I really like, and one of them is being in a van. I mean, getting from A to B. People's lives are so much easier when they're on tour because they're just like, today I'm going to wake up. We're going to go from Atlanta to Jacksonville, Florida. We will play a show, and then I will go to sleep. And that, it like zens you out. And then part of it is like the drive where you're just thinking. You're maybe listening to music, but you're just like, pontificating, as you say.
Yeah. Well, especially being on that high of like getting off stage.
Yeah.
And just being wired.
Yeah.
And you could feel tired as shit like walking out to the car, loading your gear up. But it always seems like as soon as I go to lay my head on the pillow, I'm awake.
Yeah.
You know, and then I'm like, oh shit, I'm going to be up till like 4 a.m. tonight.
Totally. And it, man, the post-tour depression is like, that's something I was talking about, like Woody Guthrie or Kerouac, like these characters of the Great American, Night. I totally understand why they had problems with their like family units and they would like have to leave. It's because like when you're on the road, you feel so much liberation, and then when you get home, there's a million different directions
all
you can go.
All your problems are
and you don't know what to
left,
do.
You're going back to.
Totally. And so you're like, man, you know what I liked? I liked like eating apple pie a la mode in a diner and driving all night listening to jazz music. It's like, that feels nice to me, So I can understand and I struggle a lot when I get home from tours. People know I'm like, it takes me a couple days, especially because I play a really high energy show, and it like chemically there's like some sort of thing that happens.
What's the worst show you've ever played?
Worst show? Well, that's hard because I always wish for the best, and I will always think the best. I mean, there's been a couple times when my voice genuinely gave out like 100%, like not even just like, oh, I can't quite hit that note. It was like, I'm like, I can't talk. And that sucks when you're just a singer. And you can't sing. And I'm like, what do we do? I mean, looking back, I should have just like, I don't know what I could have done, but if I had been more creative, there's probably a solution somewhere, like had someone else sing and like acknowledged it, or, had a puppet represent me. I just remember kind of crashing out, being like, man, this is terrible. But generally speaking, the size of a crowd doesn't bother me. I've gotten in some pretty serious trouble at some shows where like a venue or organization will get mad at me. Like there's a college I played last year, and they basically came out on stage and were like, if you jump off the stage one more time, like we're gonna rip your check in half. And I'm just like,
why?
I don't know. It was at Wofford, and they just got so mad at me. It was like some sort of like regional promoter. I just freaked him out because I like took off my boots and threw them into the crowd. But I was just goofing around. I also like just threw them into the grass, and yeah, they hated me. And but even that, it's like, well, whatever. You think like WWE style, it's like bring it on. Like I love the push and pull. Like they hate me. It's like that's awesome because then everyone in the crowd's like boo, you know, everyone's booing them, and I'm like, oh, they're about to rip my check in half. They just said they're gonna rip my check, and you know they're over there getting mad, and it's like none of this really matters. This is just it's just kind of funny, you know what I mean? Like ultimately, I'm just here to put on a performance, and you know, hopefully one that promotes peace. And I don't want someone to be mad at me, but at the end of the day, even if they did rip my check in half or this or that, it's like we all go on with our lives. It's just a funny event, and also, yeah, the more that stuff happens, the more it's like there's so many ways to win. You know, if you play to less people, then their mind gets blown. You know, I saw Freeze, and there was only 5 people in the crowd, and it was awesome. Play to more people, that's obviously a win, you know. People don't like you, that's hilarious. The people in the crowd who do like you acknowledge that nobody liked you. It's hilarious, you know. Play to a bunch of old people, they don't like you, but then the one old person who does, you're like, that was for you. And then they're like, man, I saw you, and no one liked you, and it was awesome. So I don't know. There's just always... And then even if literally no one liked you, then you turn to the band, and now you have a core memory for life that's hilarious. So, you know, I just always try to look for that, and so I don't sweat it. I don't sweat it much.
Do you know who Spose is? Have you ever heard of Spose? He's a rapper.
I don't think so. Is that a local person?
So he is a rapper from Maine, where I grew up.
Cool, no way.
Yeah.
Maine rapper, that's cool.
Yeah. It's interesting because he's like very successful, like regionally, has made a career for himself being a rapper in Maine.
Right.
And it's...
No way.
Yeah, because think about that. Just in itself.
Right. I don't know any rappers from Maine.
Yeah.
New England in general is pretty rare.
Yeah. Know? But he's fantastic. Like he had this hit that came out probably back in like 2009, 2010 called I'm Awesome. You might know the song if you heard it. Cool. It's one of those. It's like I'm awesome. No, you're not, dude. Don't lie. But it was like a big hit and kind of like a novelty song whenever it came out. But he parlayed that into a whole career, and he had got signed, got dropped after that. So it's always just really, it's a really interesting story. But he slings T-shirts. I saw him here in Nashville with my buddy Ned, who played guitar in the Poptimist Review, and we grew up together in Maine, Ned and I. So it was kind of like a cool thing for us to be able to go see him together in Nashville. Right. You know? Yeah,
totally.
But it was at the end. And there was probably maybe 40, 50 people there, so there wasn't a ton of people there. You know, like you can really pack that room out. But, dude, he performed that in that fucking room like it was Bridgestone Arena. It didn't matter to him.
That's sick.
And he had the crowd, dude.
Right. That rules, man.
Yeah. And I really am drawn. Like it was very inspiring, and it was a high that I was riding on for a couple of days after seeing something like that. Right. Just someone not giving a fuck. And it was a good crowd. It wasn't necessarily a small crowd.
Right.
But everybody was there, like, participating.
Absolutely.
And I feel like performances like that, it's almost like a form of hypnotism, you know? And I've never seen you live, but I've seen like photos and videos of you, and I like all this stuff I see. I feel like it's a form of magic that's done. You know what I mean?
Yeah, sure.
To be able to grab people's attentions, because how hard is it to grab people's attention? Dude?
Right. Absolutely.
Especially today.
It is. It is. It does feel like magic because it's really hard to convert people, especially like in that opener slot when people don't know you. How do you win them over? And yeah, you really have to, I think, in my opinion, you have to risk it. You have to show like that you're vulnerable to them, and then they will hopefully catch you, you know. If you fall, hopefully they'll catch you, you know. But that is my favorite thing in the world. I love winning over a crowd, and like I said, the opener slot, like put me in the opener slot. That's my favorite thing in the world. It's just to take people who don't care about me, don't even want, you know, the ultimately don't want to see me. They want to see the headlining band, and then be like, then them to be like, that was, you know, a great part of my night. I don't want to say best part. Hopefully they enjoy the headliner more, but, you know, people really like it. It means a lot to me. And they come buy a shirt and
talk to you. And
yeah.
Like, that was fucking awesome.
Right. No, ultimately, I've built my career off of the, you know, hope I mean, I am kind of gambling with it that if you play to, like you're talking about with your buddy, like that is basically my whole career. Play to like 50 people, try to win them over, and hoping that eventually, my hope is that it will, have some sort of cultural impact that's bigger than that. If it doesn't, I'm also okay with that. Like I'll be 80 and play. I plan on maybe just becoming like a jazz head and just, or whatever. I'll play the rock clubs when I'm like I'll play the End at 80 years old. If I had to do that.
Yeah.
That'd be sick. But
the End is dope, dude. It's a dope room to play in.
It is, and like I'm cool with being an underground for life. I'd rather be an underground for life than be someone that is boring. Like I want to impact culture. It's like you ever seen Dig, the Brian Jonestown Massacre movie?
No.
Well, and just one of the guys in that says, the desire of an artist is to impact culture, and I never quite heard it like that, but that is what it is. It's not about having a lot of fans or fame or money, but sometimes it can feel close to that because you do want to impact culture, and like the more people that like you, the more you think, oh, maybe I can have a greater impact. But that's not even necessarily true, like you can have a greater impact on a smaller crowd of 40 or 50, like you said you felt for days. I can't remember going to an arena show that made me feel that way. Like, so
totally, Yeah, it's, and I like going to arena shows. I feel like Bridgestone, honestly, is not a good arena to go see a show in.
Right.
Personally, I'm not the biggest fan of it. I did see a great fucking John Mayer show there, though.
Cool.
This was when he released The Search for Everything, that album.
Cool.
And it was a really good show.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would much rather see a band at like Exit In or some bullshit like that, because you kind of know what someone's made of.
Yeah, totally.
You can tell way more, because like when you play a bigger show like that, and I've never played like a huge show like Bridgestone or anything like that, but as an audience member, there's a certain degree from which you are removed from them.
Right.
But it's like the kind of shows that you really have specialized in. It's up close and personal. They can smell you.
Totally. I love that stuff, and I'm cool with, I can't even imagine playing to more people than that. It would be fun, but ultimately, like, it would just be cool to be able to pay my band and not have to wait tables, which right now I don't. Right now I'm just doing music.
Fuck yeah.
So, hopefully I can keep riding that, and but I was waiting tables a few months ago, so who knows what the future will hold.
Well,
but,
it comes in cycles. That's the other thing.
Absolutely.
I think with being creative, there's times where the money's rolling in, everything's great, and there's other times where the phone ain't ringing.
Right, that's true.
You got to go back to calling people, sending emails, making shit happen.
Totally. But if I can, eat some good sushi in life, and I don't have very many bougie, lifestyle desires. I do like I like sushi. I like
hot cocoa.
I like some hot cocoa, and swimming in a nice. I do like the beach. Maybe go to the beach once every year or two. That sounds good to me.
Where can people find you at?
Nordista Freeze on pretty much literally everything. Super responsive. So Instagram is where I am the most, I think. And then space.prom has its own Instagram now.
Oh, shit.
Which is cool. And it's growing in its own legs. It's taking off. It's going to surpass me and become its own thing, which is exciting.
Even better, dude.
Yeah. So I'm excited about that. And I will just say, lastly, like, the Space Prom thing, it's like, my career feels very independent, and like, I feel like I do have a lot of collaboration, but it's like, there's a lot of time that I spend in solidarity, just like working on it. But with Space Prom, I have like, 4 people that I talk to every day, and then I have like the band, which is like 10 people, and it is just amazing. Like, if this comes out before the show,
it's coming out before the show,
and people get a chance to come, like, this show that we're gonna put on is, I'm not just saying this to like sell tickets, like, of all the things I've done in my life, I think this is like the most impressive thing I've been able to pull off. Like what you're talking about with the show you did over here, it's like, I'm like, all right, like we have put in so much effort and
heart and soul,
like curate the lineup or curate the songs we do or the costumes. Like, we have different people working like all day and night on it all. And I just think like whoever gets to come to this, I think will be really happy they did.
Fuck yeah, dude. I'm definitely coming out.
Sweet. I hope you will, man. Thank you.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to it.
It's been great being here, man. I love it.
Dude, thank you so much for coming on.
For sure. Easy.
Yeah. Easy peasy.
And thanks to our engineer as well.
Yeah, shout out to Eric. Eric, you're the man. Thank you.
Thanks for the hot cocoa, Eric.
Keep on dreaming. See you real soon.